I'm with the Division of Freshwater Fisheries, and I hope y'all don't all fall asleep, but we're going to talk a little bit about Tenoroc. Tenoroc is a fish management area, and before we get into what we're trying to do at Tenoroc, I want to introduce you to Tenoroc. Tenoroc is a series of phosphate pits. They were created in the 60s and early 50s, or late 50s. And basically, being a fish management area, we are trying to manage and have been trying to manage at Tenoroc for years quality fishing opportunities. 95% of the people that visit Tenoroc come for one reason: they come to fish. So basically, we're trying to shorten the time between bites.
That's a good goal.
That is a good goal. Like I said, Tenoroc was a mined area. If you know anything about the phosphate mining, it's basically a strip mine. They remove what we call overburden to get to the ore. And then when you're all done with it, you end up with voids, and those become the lakes. Tenoroc was originally donated to the state of Florida by Borden Chemicals. Same people that, produce the milk. Borden Chemicals gave Tenoroc to the state. They didn't want to complete all the reclamation requirements, so they thought the quickest way to do it, it was the last piece of property they owned in the state, mining-wise. So in 1982, they gave it to the state of Florida. Since that time, Tenoroc has grown. In 1998, some land was purchased south of us, including some phosphate pits. We were real interested in that. That was incorporated into the Tenoroc Fish Management Area. In 2000, through Florida Forever, we purchased 987 acres adjacent to the main tract. This included 6 lakes. We were real happy to get those too. We've made a number of land trades. This is the first land trade that we had with the city of Lakeland. We acquired an additional 125 acres through this land trade. The last land trade that we had, it occurred in 2010. This was a small land trade. I guess I could point it out. It's occurred right over here. Basically, we consolidated our borders for Tenoroc, and we traded some land with the city. They're going to build a park, so we're going to have a park. This is Tenoroc is located in Polk County, and it's kind of an urbanized area. We got Lakeland all around us. I mean, there's DRIs all the way around us. We're in between Tampa and I-4. Now, okay, try this again. We also have a lot of people wanting to give us land, and this is coming from the Williams tract. It actually came to DEP. This will be incorporated into the Tenoroc lease. It doesn't really look that impressive. It's above grade clay settling areas, but it is going to provide us as some water, and basically a lot of this area up here would be what we consider a water tower. And you'll see why a little later on in our presentation. So here's Tenoroc. We're about 7,300 acres in size. We abut a county park, now a city park. We have a lot of development around us. This is a power plant. We run from the city of Lakeland to the city of Auburndale, and it's all phosphate mined area. Management history of Tenoroc. Originally, it was managed by Recreation and Parks. In 1992, there was some budget constraints, and this was not pristine land. Parks and Recreation Parks likes to have pristine land. So they were going to give it up. Well, the Division of Freshwater Fisheries did not want to give it up. We had, during this time, we had managed this area for public fishing. A lot of the rules and regulations you see statewide were actually tested here. It was an outdoor laboratory. So the division decided that we would take this task on. Now, realize I have about 1,000 acres of water, lakes, and a substantially larger amount of land. So this is kind of unique for the Division of Freshwater Fisheries to take on something like this. Be perfectly honest with you, I don't think the division knew what they were getting into. In 2007, with the efforts that were going on by a lot of folks, particularly DEP, and the monies that were being spent trying to restore some of this land, we decided that DEP really needed to be a co-manager. So we asked them, they agreed. So in 2007 till today, we have a co-management area managed by DEP, Bureau of Mining and Minerals Regulation, and by the Division of Freshwater Fisheries. Now, we also have some cooperators. We have the Division of Forestry. You know, realize this is mine land, so a lot of the upland management that we're doing, we're trying to restore uplands as well as wetlands. And we also have a cooperator in the form of the county, Polk County. They help us with a variety of things, particularly invasive plant control. Our management objectives at Tenoroc have been I guess, I don't know whether fine-tuned is, but they have developed over the time. Basically, we want to optimize fish and wildlife habitat on this mine piece of property. We also want to look at the environmental function of this property. We want to optimize that function, get the water where it needs to go. And we also want to optimize public use. In terms of public use, we have fishing opportunities. Like I said, 95% of the people who come to Tenoroc come to fish our lakes. We also have a variety of trail systems. We have hiking trails and horseback trails. So if you're a horseback rider or you like to hike, we have those. And then here recently, and it's become more of an emphasis with the agency, we're now getting into the business of public education. Tenoroc is one of the, I guess it's going to be one of the first youth conservation centers in the state. And they're starting to begin to build those things out now. In terms of public fishing, we have 24 lakes open to public fishing. Now, we have both reclaimed and unreclaimed lakes. An example of an unreclaimed lake is Lake 5. This is one lake. It's 225 acres in size. It's just like it was when the mines left it. It only filled up with water. It's got 36 miles of shoreline. And I keep on telling people that's about the distance from Lakeland to Tampa. A substantial amount of edge effects. Our next largest lake is Lake B. It's only 205 acres in size. But it has 10 miles of shoreline. So these pits have a lot of shoreline associated with them, and they produce some great fisheries. Again, this is just some pictures. This is a unreclaimed lake, and this is what a reclaimed lake looks like. When they reclaim it, they get rid of the islands. They push a lot of dirt. The lake becomes smaller. We also have hiking trails. We're part of the Greater Florida Birding Trail. We have horseback. Like I said, we have about 15 miles of horseback trails and about 12 miles of hiking trails. Some of it, you know, when Tenoroc was mined in the 50s and 60s, it was a hunt and peck operation. It was high-grade ore, so not all of the area was mined at Tenoroc. If the mines owned Tenoroc today, they would re-mine it 3 times over because the technology evolved where they could get more phosphate out of the ground. So we do have some unmined areas. And of course, some of our trails go along areas that are associated with the lakes. In terms of public education, like I said, we're becoming part of the Youth Conservation Center network, which is a big push for the agency. This is Derby Lake. This was designed for kids fishing only. We have all kinds of, we have fish camps. We're going to have hunt camp opportunities. We teach them about boater safety. We teach them about management. We also open the area up to other stakeholders if they want to have an event. We have Enviro Days and we have kids fishing events almost constantly at this particular area. In terms of environmental function, there's two things that we are concentrating on at Tenoroc, and part of it, the big thing, is reclamation. The next thing is acquisition. And this project has evolved. I guess it really started in 1995, and it's a cooperative effort. And I need to mention two people. Y'all may know some of them, but Bud Cates and Tim King were probably the biggest drivers in getting this Upper Saddle Creek restoration project started. The two main players here have been the Department of Environmental Protection and the FWC. And it's been a long time coming. We started in 1995 and we're just now getting to the point. You know, initially when we started this program, we came up with conceptual designs and plans. We had no funding, no money whatsoever to implement them. And we, through the years, we have found the money. None of it came from general state dollars. None of it came from general revenue. All the money came from a variety of different sources. The Non-Mandatory Reclamation Trust Fund, ARES funding, and mitigation funding for roads and DOT mitigation. All right. I threw this slide in just to show you the mining district in our southwest area of the state. There are 1.5 million acres within this mining district that is being mined or has been mined, and what we'd like to see eventually is a connection. I think it's very important to have this connection, but there, you know, in a mining district, there's all kinds of opportunities for public recreation. I'll let Casey go from here.
That's just showing, that ring is showing the location of Tenoroc Fish Management Area in the grand scheme of things. Here's another image just giving more perspective about location. You can see the green swamp right here, I-4 connecting. It's about smack dab between Tampa and Orlando. So here's Tenoroc. And then Tenoroc will go into the Saddle Creek Basin, which is the headwaters of the Peace River. So this is a pretty key hydrologic area where the connection between the Green Swamp and the Peace River Basin used to be. We have 3 restoration projects that have been ongoing for the Saddle Creek Upper Peace River restoration, and I'll talk about the first 2. The first one is in the west side, North Lake Parker project. These are the initial conceptual designs of the 2 wetlands that were built. You can see the reclaimed, these are the reclaimed lakes that Danon was talking about. And this is the first wetland that we ended up with, the East Wetland. We built it in 2005. It was completed in 2006. And you can see it's a linear style wetland with a deep marsh throughout and surrounded by forested wetland trees and then kind of an upland buffer going around. There's a lot of connections to these lakes, and even some treatment takes place from these subdivisions. And the west wetland, similar, it's a marsh surrounded by, this is right after construction photo taken. So it's kind of a deep marsh surrounded by wetland, forested wetland areas, and then once again upland buffer areas. And let's see. As soon as we built it, the birds started coming. Had a lot of luck with sandhill cranes and a bunch of other species there. Just some other images over the years. And the numbers. This one is the smallest of the 3 projects, clearing about 45 acres. Like I said, 2 wetlands that are combined, herbaceous forested systems. There's the duck food we planted. We ended up with about 42 acres of wetlands. And all of this money for this project was from DOT mitigation funds.
I might add that in this DOT mitigation, they needed 23 acres of wetlands constructed. And we, being the state, we were able to produce 43 acres, which was a real big plus for us.
So the second one here, actually kind of in the central part of Tenoroc, just south of the office, is a 500-acre piece. And this image shows pre-construction, and basically this was a clay settling or clay disposal area. Back then, when they mined and they had to dispose of the clay and the sand tailings that were separated out to get the phosphate, they would put it all in the same area, and that's what they did here. Now they keep them separate, but with this clay settling area above grade, they put layers of clay and then layers of sand and layers of clay and layers of sand. And then there's been a lot of settling that's gone on from the clay settling out over the years. But they did do some initial reclamation in this area to get it back to like a pasture type land use. And here's our design. This is a herbaceous marsh, created herbaceous marsh, cut out of the sand tailings. The top layer ended up being sand. This is a forested wetland system. And basically what they did is they cut this sand material out and pushed it up here to create a kind of like a sandhill community, where we hope to one day receive gopher tortoises. We're not quite ready for them yet, but hopefully we'll be able to put some there. They also, one of the main goals too was to try to get the water, like there were a bunch of little isolated pockets from settling over the years, and they're trying to get that water flowing and moving and connected. So they built these little creek systems and enhanced that wetland right there. By cutting out the invasives and putting in some natives, and just basically connected everything up to the whole system a little bit better. All this area surrounding the wetlands, we are like slowly trying to convert to a pine flatwoods community using contractors and sometimes ourselves to get native ground cover and then longleaf and slash pine in cases. Here's our marsh right after construction, about 6 months after, and this is a pretty recent image of it. This one was bigger. We're stepping up from phase 1, doing a little bit more. A little bit more habitat variety in this one. That's what I was talking about, the conversion to pine flatwoods. And here we start getting the FWC ARES funding, the Aquatic Habitat Restoration Enhancement subsection money. in addition to the DOT money. All right, now the project that you guys are probably going to be most interested in, I'm going to give back to Danon.
Yes. Okay. Phase 3. Phase 3 was a fairly large project. This is on old clay, below grade clay settling areas. And it was such a big project that our engineers, the contracted engineers, initially we wanted to do it all as one phase. But it was such a big project that we had to break it up into 3 subphases. So I'm going to go through each of the subphases. This is probably the one that most people are interested in, the next 2, Phase A and Phase B. This was the area. This was the area that we started working Phase 3A on. And this was our design. Now, the area that is the wetland is right in here. These are outlying areas. Some of them are wet, some of them are just flow paths. But the goal was to get the water into a wetland, get that water back into the Peace River somehow. If you know anything about mines, they put a ditch around these areas, and this land at one time contributed water, to the Peace River. But once they mine it, a lot of times that area is isolated. This is the wetland that we're talking about. We call this the Eastern Waterfowl area. It is on clays. This is what it looked like before we got started. We had dewatered this area for a number of years. It was basically a willow marsh to some extent. We called it the squag. We spent weeks out there cutting trails through it, trying to determine how you could get around. And a lot of this, you're going to look at these dollar figures, you're going to sit there and say, well, that's pretty expensive, and it is. When you're dealing with clays, it's very expensive. These are very unstable soils. You have to have specialized equipment to work on them. You'll see some of that here shortly. And you basically spend a lot of your effort moving dirt. This is what the area looks like as it was being constructed. We cleared off the vegetation. We had not connected up these water pockets yet. They're all interconnected now. We've put in structures, a lot of major structures. This is the most recent aerial, and this is to the north. I tried to set these up so everything would look the same. What you see in green is 2 species of plants, floating plants. There's duckweed and water lettuce. And we've spent a substantial amount of effort trying to control these 2 plants on this system. Again, immediately after completing it and getting some water in it, we started seeing a variety of different critters show up to utilize it. So sandhill, they were successful. They built a nest out on the wetland area within, weeks after we got some water in it. This is the only picture you're going to see with some ducks in it. We do have ducks utilizing the area. These are whistlers. There's a lot of Florida mallards. There's a lot of wood ducks. We're seeing them, but you got to realize this is a fairly new area. We've only gone through one cold season, one winter with this area, and it really wasn't completed then. We basically worked 715 acres of this mine land. We moved a substantial amount of earth. We put in some major water control structures so that we can maintain water on this clay settling area. And that's a big key, because if we ever let it dry out, we'll get a willow marsh again, and we'll be back to square one. We've put in a substantial amount of herbaceous plants and wetland trees in these areas. That's also a big effort to get the habitat right. And basically we created 264 acres of wetlands and open water. You know, our goal was a 50-50 mix. We enhanced existing wetlands that were there. We created some freshwater sloughs, some stream channels. We did some mixed forest, and obviously we have some rangeland associated with it. In this case, we used DOT mitigation money. This was the last of the DOT mitigation money that we had, and this also completed their mitigation requirement. They needed 124 acres. Now they have more than what they needed, so they were happy to spend the money there. The alternative to that was this was for the Polk Parkway. If you've ever driven the Polk Parkway or any major highway, what you see are those little, what I call postage stamp wetlands on the side of the road, you know, with the fence around them. What we did was take that money and put it into a larger system. Aries committed $1 million to this project. It was a $2.4 million, just this phase. Our next phase, we call this the Western Waterfowl area. This is the, again, it is a clay settling area, below grade. This was the area that was mined. They just introduced clays into this particular area, so there was some native vegetation. We have some cypress growing up there in different areas. The clays aren't that thick, so the cypress was able to survive. But this was, you know, a mining block. I mean, this is a dike that is completely around this area. And to give you an idea of the type of equipment, well, maybe, yes, the type of equipment that is needed to work out there, this is, what do they call it, a Gimco? Yeah. You know, we hired a company that was familiar with mined lands. And there's not that many of them out there. This is the type of equipment they use on the phosphate, you know, in a clay settling area, mainly because you can't put normal equipment out there. Let me back up. The contractor tells me that each of these tires cost $15,000. He busted a few at Tenoroc. He was not a happy camper. But we cleared the area off. This is the start. We haven't finished this area. This was the area cleared. We tried to save as many of the native trees as possible. Unfortunately, some of them are in water, and the oaks will die. This is an aerial. This is before we connected up. Everything you see water-wise has been connected together, and there's a major discharge point right here. So this is the aerial before they connected it up. It has now been connected up. We have a flow path through the system. We have multiple structures throughout this system, mainly for safety purposes. These dikes were cast dikes. They're not what they would build today. A cast dike is they just dug the overburden, threw it up, and, you know, hoped it held. And so we have to address those things now. The way we address it is these large structures and emergency overflows. Again, in this case, we cleared 475 acres. We pushed a lot of dirt. Doesn't mean we removed it, we just pushed it. We re-sloped the area. We put a lot of effort in the water control structures, emergency water release areas. This particular area, you know, what we would like to see more of a forested wetland here. So we put in a substantial amount of herbaceous plants initially, but we also put in a substantial amount of trees, particularly bald cypress. I'll never see it, but hopefully this will be a cypress swamp one day. One of the other things we tried, and we haven't ever used this before, but the contractor wanted to try rice. So we planted some rice, and it really worked well. And so in the future, we hope to use rice on mined lands. We think it will be a good food source. Seems they do it out in Louisiana. Why can't we do it here? So, but anyway, it worked real well. No, you don't have to. I thought it was my phone because I have the same ringtone. So, basically, here we've created 237 acres of wetland. There's less open water in this one than the other. We enhanced some areas. We put in some mixed forests. Here we use the last of the DOT monies. We use non-mandatory reclamation trust fund monies because that's what this land was never restored. And we use Ares monies. And this was a $2.3 million project. Now the final phase, phase 3C, is really important to me as a fisheries biologist because it basically is a circulation, a water path. We want to get the water from the east waterfowl area through our lakes to the west waterfowl area. And so we spent, most of this effort was spent on building structures. There was some reclamation on the dikes. This was the footprint. You can see it's fairly small. It really centers around 4 lakes. These are unreclaimed lakes. We're real creative on our names here. In terms of the lakes, there's a reason for that. Maybe I can sell somebody on it. But we have Lake 4, we have Lake 5, we have Lake 2 and Lake 3. Okay? I also have A, B, and C, so, and in this case, we spent a substantial amount of money on these structures, putting them in structures in the emergency areas. We did a lot of clearing too. We got multiple structures in this area. 103 acres, not much, mainly dikes. We had to move a lot of dirt, not as much as some of the other areas. We planted a substantial amount of herbaceous plants, and mainly these are going to be in the littoral area of the lakes. Basically created 53 acres of littoral area and a unreclaimed lake, mixed forest. And most of this funding, or all this funding, came from Ares. Here's the final product of our efforts so far. 687 acres of wetland areas, including forested wetlands, sloughs. We also restored a substantial amount of herbaceous or upland area. Total costs, $8.1 million is what we spent so far. Again, remember this is mine land. Now, Casey's going to talk about our volunteers.
So we have a very small staff between the two of us, and we do all the ongoing maintenance and of these areas, and we really rely on volunteers. In-house we do burning, herbiciding. We also do contract herbiciding, but we really rely on volunteers to do special projects, and we have a great group called the Ridge Rangers. They're affiliated with FWC, and they come out. We have several ongoing projects adjacent to the contract areas, like, removing, removing peppers, putting in native plants, wood duck boxes here, which were many of which were donated by
this organization,
United Waterfowlers. We've had Boy Scout groups come in, Girl Scout classes. So basically we realized that we need to take advantage of whatever labor we can get, and we do. I just wanted to talk a little bit more about, we've talked a lot about the location and how important the area is, and Danon talked about how we did acquire this area and why that's valuable. It's elevated, as he said, and so and it's an old clay settling area, so it holds a lot of water, and we're hoping to get that water down into our area. We'd rather use it in our area than have it sit there and evaporate. Other important reasons for trying to get some of this area up here are what we talked about earlier, which is just this idea of connectivity. And with my agency, we think a lot about water protection and protection of the streams and waterways, but that protecting those channels of the Peace River and the streams and also provides a connectivity that's valuable for wildlife. So that's important to us as well. And this is one of the earlier concepts for trying to get the green swamp area connected back to the Peace River watershed. And then they've made some changes due to developments. There's a campus going in. You guys have probably heard about the Polytech campus. It is, I believe, going in up here already. They've built a road that connects from Polk Parkway back out somewhere right here. But we're so close to having like a connected state or other public lands all the way from Charlotte Harbor up to the Green Swamp. We're just missing a few pieces, so those are kind of always in the back of our mind, those connecting pieces right north and south of I-4. Tim King and Bud Cates did develop the Integrated Habitat Network, which is basically a way of protecting the waters of the Peace River and Alafaya and providing wildlife connections. So that's kind of always something that our agencies are thinking about. And that's the overlook of the eastern waterfowl area just a few weeks ago. So it's only about a year old, I think, in this picture, and it's coming along real well.
And remember, I'm in the Division of Freshwater Fisheries. Okay? So I have to show this slide. We're managing, oh, well. Okay, sorry. If you want more information, you can go to the DEP site. There it is. But getting back to the Division of Freshwater Fisheries, this is what we're managing for. All right? This was actually sampled. This was a fish that was picked up in Lake B of Tenoroc. 16 pounds, put back in the water. So I hope he's still, if first of all, it's she. Okay? It's got to be a she, and she may not be running around, but I sure hope her youngins are. All right?
If you invite us back in a few years, we'll have some more duck pictures.
Yes. All right. We're open to questions.